Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here. Welcome to another video. This video is courtesy of Brian. He was December's Patreon winner, and even though that was kind of a preset draw with I had a specific thing in mind to mail out, he had an idea and a build that was actually pretty straightforward to do. And so instead of doing the preset, we talked back and forth a little bit through emails, and he wanted a guppy hide, and that's what this is going to be. Now, the way that worked out was kind of interesting because I think that's how I'm going to try doing today's video. Obviously, at the end of today, because this is the last Friday of the month, I will do a draw for the next giveaway. And then I haven't said anything about what it's going to be or anything. What I'll do is I'll get in contact with the winner. And I find it takes, you know, a little bit of time anyway to do that. And then in the last Friday in February, we will do another draw, and I will hopefully also be able to do a build for that, and that'll be whatever this morning's, I guess, you know, I'm doing this Thursday night. This will be, in this video, whoever wins, they will pick something, and we'll work it all out, and we'll see how that goes. So for this draw, like I said, I'm not going to preset anything. We'll give it a go. There's not really enough money, obviously, in the Patreon yet to do much more than cover postage, but I'm really not going to worry about that for now. We'll just see how it goes. So, enough said about all that. This is going to be the top four. Well, basically, when you set this in the water, this is going to be the surface part. And I decided to do it out of a solid piece. That's why it's sitting here on the milling machine. And also, for those of you, the few of you who suffered through Wednesday's video, that is also going to come into play in this as well. So this is going to be, as I said, a floating guppy hide, and I will explain all the different details here. There also is going to be a couple of differences in how I'm going to go about doing this build. Normally what I do is I'll come up with a design, we'll figure out the dimensions, cut the pieces to size, and then glue them together. I mean, you see me do it a bunch of times. But there's another way you can do it. What you can do instead is you can oversize some of the pieces. This top here is, as you can see, first off, the hole in the center I'm cutting out is not centered on anything. I left enough on the ends so I can clamp it down really nice and tightly, and then I trued up the bottom side, the one on the right here currently, so that it's square to the hole I'm cutting out. Those are the only really important bits. Once I have this piece removed, it gives me the dimensions for everything else I need to make. Now, the reason I'm doing it this way, Brian, in this particular case anyway, is it will make the top of this one solid piece. Instead of cutting it out of, you know, 4 separate pieces and then gluing them all together, it'll make the top nice and uniform, and it'll make it look neater and cleaner that way. And I think that's kind of important. So hopefully this will make it look a little nicer for you as well. Now, one other thing I did for this is, once I had this piece out, as you can see here, I've sanded the top of this. I went through 120 and then 400 grit, and that will give it a bit of a frosted look to the top, and hopefully that will hide watermarks and also a bit of fish food, so when you have to clean it, you won't have to worry about it scratching. It should be clean up quite easily. This is going to be the bottom. You want it to be opaque. The only opaque piece I had was black. Hopefully that's okay. And the drawing you sent me had a bunch of holes in it. I decided to go with a little bit more uniform pattern for the holes. No real reason for it other than it gives, well, the guppies hopefully easy ways of getting in and out. Now, I didn't put them on the bottom, and I didn't put them near the top or centered. I off-centered them because once it sits in the water, there's going to be a bit of a lip on the top of this, so they are not going to be able to get in at that part. And I didn't want it all the way at the bottom because, well, I mean, guppies when they're first born sometimes can go to the bottom. I just wanted to give them as much chance as possible. So I'm going to go through the glue up for this, and then I'm going to show you how easy this is to trim to size afterwards. This is going to be the part that's going to be, well, it's the bottom, but it's going to be floating up. This particular joint is not critical. The one that matters is the top bit. So when I was cutting these, it was essential that they're all exactly the same. And you've seen me before. What I'll do is if I'm going to cut a bunch of, in this case, 3-inch pieces, I cut them all at once with one setting. And that's actually one of the things I found with the saw sled. My apologies, I'm going to be talking about this thing an awful lot. It made it very, very accurate, which is really nice, which is important in this particular build again, because not only does this have to be watertight, it has to be airtight. It has to hold a bubble of air underneath the lip. Speaking of which, this is going to be the lip. It is going to sit around the outside of this, and it is going to give you that little bit of bubble all around, and that will keep it obviously floating. Now, Brian, you should be able to have no issues putting this into the aquarium. I tried it out a bunch of times and it seems to work quite well. And then of course you can vary how much air is trapped underneath it, and that will obviously vary how much it floats on the surface and stuff. And this is the part I was most excited about doing this. This is something, well, it's important to me in the sense that it allows me to do a bunch of different styles of builds. So what I'm doing here currently is I'm just raising the saw blade up a little bit, just so it just cuts through the 1/8 inch black piece that's on the bottom. So I'm just going to do a couple of test passes here, and then what I'll do is trim it all off. You can see the first piece went off there, and then I'm just going to move it right up to the edge. And because there's pretty much zero clearance between that gap and the saw blade, it makes lining this up really easy. I just have to sight down the hole, and it just comes right off. And this is just so easy. This gives me the opportunity to make all sorts of different things, which is kind of cool, which is you guys are going to see as it comes along. So actually, I'm really glad I built this oversized one. I didn't actually think about this when I was building the little one. I always thought, oh, I could use a saw sled to use up some of the smaller scraps I have laying around. But actually, this one here is going to be more useful in the sense for doing builds, because there are a few things that I wanted to do. You noticed a little while back I made the wood-framed glass tank, and I really wanted to do some stuff with that. But I needed a more accurate way of cutting wood even, and this is going to give me that sort of advantage, so I can make a stand and other stuff for it. So hopefully in the near future, some of those kinds of builds will be coming up as well. So here you go. This is very easy, very straightforward, and I'm very happy with this. And the nice thing about dealing with wood is it was very easy to do this. The only thing I did slightly wrong is I was a little... Initially, when I started doing the cuts for this, I was being too slow. You should move the acrylic through the blade more quickly. You can see in the upper left there's a bit of where it melted instead of cut through. But that's easy for me to sand out later, Brian, so I won't have to worry about that too much. There you go. That's the bottom piece. Took off all the plastic now, obviously. And now the tricky part here is to make sure I get a good seal between this is the bottom and the top lid, and then of course the outer rim. So I have to be careful with this. It's not too... This is how it's going to sit in the aquarium here, by the way. This is actually not too worrisome, but I just need to be a little bit careful with this. So it's starting to come together. I'm going to stick this in the aquarium, obviously, and get it to float around, and you get to see how it works. But this is pretty much how it's going to work there, Brian. Hopefully you'll like it. I will leave my contact information below. Actually, you already have all that. I need your address. That's what the short of all that is, so I can mail this to you. So what we're going to do at the end of this is we're going to do another draw, and we'll do the process again for for the next build for February. And keep in mind, whoever wins, something that can fit easily in a mailable box. That's well, anyway, we'll work with those details. So this is the outer rim that's going to trap the air so this thing floats, and that's pretty much the last part of this. I've had a number of interesting ideas for the next viewer input build, and I still haven't picked which one I want to do yet. But I will definitely next week get around to that, and we'll figure out what we're going to do for that as well. So this is pretty much done. I know we normally leave this to the end of the video, but if you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe, and always leave comments. So far I've been easily keeping up with all everyone's ideas, and I try to answer them all, and I'll keep doing that as long as I can. And then what we'll do is, like I said, there's one other thing I want to mention here. Oh, sorry, never mind. I'll get to that at the end. This is another indication here of why I think I'm still being too tentative with this. I'm going through too slowly. You'll see that the saw blade was actually melting the plastic instead of cutting through. It's well, once I get used to this, it's not an issue. You'll see on the final cut I'm going to do here in a couple of seconds, it just goes through quite easily and no issues whatsoever. It's just, like I said, I'm just doing it too slowly here right now. I'm just feeling out how they're going to work together. And once I realize it's fine, I'll just cut it like I always cut things, and it'll be perfectly fine. You'll see this cut here goes much smoother. And like I said, that's pretty much the end of this. I'm going to show you a clip of it fully cut, and then we're going to stick it in an aquarium, and you can watch some guppies swimming around it, and that's pretty much the end of that. See, that cut went much better. It fell off nicely, and that's the way it should be. And then here you go. This is it finished. It's wet because, well, I was just too anxious to see you, and I also wanted to make sure that it held the air bubble. So I put it in an aquarium right away and tested it before I got to this point. This is the final product. It's works nicely. One thing I didn't do, Brian, is I didn't. What you probably should do when you have this in your aquarium is put something, floating plant in there, like a hornwort or something along those lines, and it'll give the guppies and the fry themselves specifically something to swim around and keep away from mom even. So there you go. It floats well. I took it out and put it in 2 or 3 times just to test it out, and like I said, it's easy to figure out which height to keep it at. I find this one's really kind of cool because it's pretty much at the surface. You can get it to go a little bit higher, but it doesn't matter at all. And as you can see, some guppies are already in there, and the holes are big enough. I wanted to make sure of that because if the guppies, especially the pregnant female, can't fit in there, there's really no point to this. So you're going to be the big test for this, Brian. Let me know how it works out. Definitely keep in contact, and let me know how that all works out, and I will definitely get this in the mail to you soon. So all that's left in this video is to do January's draw. Thank you very much to all my Patreons for signing up and making that possible. And as always, I'm just going to shake the names up here, pull one out, do the draw, and that will be the winner. And as always, the name goes right back into the jar for next month. So you can win multiple times. I'm kind of glad that we haven't had any repetitions yet, just to give everyone a chance. But that's going to come up. I mean, it's only a matter of time before someone will win more than once. I actually do need to find a better way of unfolding these pieces of paper. Doing it one-handed this takes a little too long. So anyway, once I get my finger in the right spot, Andrew, congratulations. I will leave my email address. Just get a hold of me, and we'll figure things out. So thanks everyone very much for watching. I will see you in the next video, and bye for now.